I've been back here in Ryland now since 1990, and just as I came in, not long after I came in, after 1990, we had festivals here in Ryland. And this is Féile Ryland was called, and it got a lot of publicity, as you can see. That one out of the Muskerry, it's called the Muskerry Leader, and this was sort of publicity. And this is a Clonmel Nationalist. That one wrote all that story, and it said diabetics can achieve things. Well, I've been a type 1 diabetic all the time. I've been trying to break Guinness World Records and things like that. So I went to this was the People on Sunday, and that one they wrote a bit about me as well. So I had a lot of publicity. I'm sorry about my glasses. And just about that time we were getting ready for Féile. So it was just that weekend, myself and Kathy, my wife, we were out in Macroom, and just as we came back from our shopping, the phone rang, and the man on the phone was Joe Duffy. Kathy answered the phone, and she said, Joe Duffy wants to speak to you. And I said to Joe Duffy, and the name didn't ring a bell. She said, he's a Dublin man. Oh yeah, I bet. And I got the phone, and he said, we've been reading all about your exploits, about breaking world records and stuff like that. I would love you to speak to a friend of mine. He said here, and he put me straight on to a lady who was very nicely spoken, and chatted away. She was Marion Finucane, and she asked me about where Ryland was on the map, because Ryland is pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Hardly anybody would know unless they were passing up and down. And this, I explained to her that she'd start off at Blarney and to be on what's called the Butter Road, and that's what I would speak about mostly today, is the Butter Road, but I'm giving you an introduction into it. But anyway, I told her how she'd follow the straight road out, and the Butter Road runs straight through Ryland. So that was to explain one way. And then I told her the other way, you could go take the Contuck Road, and you'd go out past Truro, and you'd get into it. But I wanted to speak about my Guinness World Records that I was going for. And John Paul Sigmund was in Britain, because I lived most of my earlier 30 years from that, I lived in London. So John Paul Sigmundson was an Icelander. He was from Reykjavik, and he had several other sports, but and Jeff Capes was another one, and he was a shot putter for Britain. And they started a thing called Britain's Strongest Man, and they both competed, and they'd done similar type of lifts as I was doing. They're called straight arm pullovers with a 56-pound weight in both arms. So the best that they had done was John Paul Sigmundson had done 14 lifts, and he had won his way all the way through to the world's strongest man, and Jeff Capes was still quite good. He was a little bit behind him, about 12 lifts. So that was my target. That's what I was trying to achieve, to break a record of 14. So but I have the records here, and I can show you rather than talk about them. This was the first one I broke, and that was in Kilbenny, and that one was in 1999 in Kilbenny, the three counties, where you have three different counties, people like from Limerick City, and some were world champions, and some from the Mardyke, and you know, they were good lifters too. But I don't want to dwell too much on my record. But the next record I broke was at the other side of the millennium, which is this one. And that one was broke right here in Rylane. And I had Tony Pierce, a world squat champion and a world bench press champion. He was the referee tonight. He counted the lifts. And the lifts are 35 by Clongriffin, Irish Republic, Rylane, County Cork. And the date is on the 6th of April 2001. So I broke the record in 2001, so that means I crossed the millennium. And for another young man, boy or girl or whatever, to break that record from today, or to even start to do it, they'd have to be born to 945. That was the year I was born. They'd have to live right through to the beginning of the next millennium, which would be 3000, which is all of 1,000 years away, bar the 21 years if you have to go back. But nobody can go back 21 years, and nobody can live 945 years and then break the record at both sides. Not mind be a diabetic, type 1, while doing so. So my record stands for itself, but at that stage too, I was involved in Rylane Boxing Club, and I was taking them for circuit training. I was to take a group of 5 or 6 of them into a room, and I would have 6 different facilities. Most of it was weight training, because that was my thing. So I showed them how to do correct curls and how to do pull-ups and lots of things, squats and bench press. I showed them how to do it all very, very keenly, and where it could be of beneficial to boxers, you know, like, and there was things there that were, I didn't invent them, they were there. There was an old tyre, and they'd do 5 minutes on the tyre, jumping like that from cross, and varying it. So that was another one. And they used to leave that gym after about a quarter of an hour in a big steam of sweat and, you know, steam coming out after them as they go out the door. I kept a bit of discipline in the room, because, you know, and if any of them doubted me and said, oh, how good are you? Well, I was the world's record holder, so I mean, they couldn't argue with that. So it was either my way or the highway. So the only ways, I Shawnee Barrett, he was a top boxer at that time. He went on to win 2 All-Irelands. He was brilliant. He was best boxer that ever boxed in Rylane as a senior. So he won 2 All-Irelands, and I went to both of them and enjoyed them, because he was a very exciting boxer and terrific. And the story that I'm telling you about today is all about Oban. And Oban is Shawnee Barrett's home village. Like, it's a tiny village, a little bit like Rylane, where Rylane is, you know, but by now the village is almost non-existent. But Shawnee, anyway, you know, he's done what he's done. His brother Declan was even a more stylish boxer, but he didn't achieve the same things as Shawnee. But at that stage there was a man, Mick Cronin, and he was with Rylane Boxing Club. He was one of the founder members of it. And one night when I was training boys, just after, when we'd all get together and have a little chat, Mick said to me, Con, he said, I'm hosting for the Butter Road, I think it was the 300th edition. I think it was 1747, the building of that road, and it was built to bring butter from County Kerry right through to the exchange in Cork City, and north of the city. But and to do that, they had to come straight through Ryland, which is this village here. But so I said yes, of course, because I was interested. He said he had some characters there that would challenge me. There was Gerald Burke was a great weight lifter and weight thrower, and he said Gerald would be there, and Willie Joe Lee, he was on a television ad that time, I think it was for Lotto or something, and he was throwing a bowl, and Willie was also a heavy weight thrower, 56 pound for distance and for height. So I said, he was going to get plenty of them to challenge me. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the cart that's here in Ryland. It's an old horse's cart. It's like the same as you'd have back then. But only thing about the cart that makes it look different today is that there's rubber wheels in it. Back then there would have been big iron and steel bands on the wheels, and they'd have longer tails on it. Of course, they cut the tail off of this one and they put car wheels under it, which doesn't look like what they would have looked then. And there's also a 20-gallon churn on it, but back in them days the container for the butter would have been much smaller. There's also about 11 gallon one there, or something like that, about half the size of the 22 gallon. So I'd imagine to be 11 gallons. But this is right here in the middle of Ryland, the cart, the old common car, as they were called, back in the old days, even back as far as the 1900s and 20th century. Even they were used right up till about 1945 and 1950, until people got trucks and cars, of course. But that was now we're going back up to the top of Mushra almost, and this here is the Kerry man's table. This is a piece of slab of concrete here, which you see, or not concrete, rock, solid rock, to have been cut out of it. And this is where most of the carmen, as they were called, would stop off and have their sandwiches. And this plaque then across the road, the plaque was, there was a Cronin, he must have been a politician. He unveiled the plaque at this particular time. I'm not quite sure of the date of this, but we went on then, and I went that morning of this thing was going to happen, the event, and it was going to be a show, and I was going to be a part of the show, which I was quite happy to do. So I put on my 56 pound weights into a trailer, and I had a tiny little Mazda 6, it was one of the, or Mazda 2, it was one of the tiniest little bubble car. And I got in that, and I drove it with the Irish flag flying in the corner. And when I got as far as Oban, there was a huge crowd there, and they were all moving in a place where it was roped off. And I had video that was running. I always had an old camcorder, and I turned on the camcorder, and as I was going through the place, I could hear one guy said, "What's going on here? Where are all these people going?" Oh, he said, "There's some madman here and he's doing something with weights." So he said, we'll just go along and we'll see what's going on. So when I finally got to where I was going, and I had my 56 one in each hand, and I was dressed in a Cossack outfit. Another big long story, the Cossack outfit, and how I ended up with it, comes from the other country, Great Britain, where I had done some strongman tricks and got involved with Cossack group. And I ended up with that anyway, and I wore it for the show just to give it a little bit of something else. And I seen Mick Cronin was inside this circle where all the roped off, and there was a big crowd around it, a huge crowd. It was black with people there. But I brought my weights into the middle of the circle and placed down my mat. I always had a mat because I was a wrestler in another life, and used to working on a mat, you know. So this was lying on the flat of my back, and hands back like that, and pulled the weights forward. And I done 10 just to show what it was, you know, what it was about, what I expected of the audience. So quite a few people came along, and they tried to lift the weight, but with no avail. Like, there was nobody even managing to give it any kind of light at all. So then there was the two big men, Gerald Burke and Willie Joe. But Gerald had known me from earlier days with the Ryland show, and I went along and I tried his thing, the throwing the weight over the bar, and Gerald of course had tried mine, and he couldn't budge him. So Gerald wasn't going to go again, because he knew that you know, that he wasn't going to do it. But Willie Joe, anyway, I could see Mick Cronin working very hard and persuading him to go and try the weights, you know, try my thing. But my weights was very unique to me. Like, it was straight, put the hand straight back, and all the way. But I had all my muscles of my back were all interlocked. So from right down to the tricep, to the lat, to the obliques, and to the buttocks, I used every ounce of strength and guidance. Even my two big toes were a kind of a guiding thing to work the whole thing right, make it work. So that was unique to me. The only thing that I could think of that has all that without developing certain muscles is a crocodile or an alligator. They're just one complete muscle from the top of their head to the tip of their tail, and their bite is the most powerful bite in the world. It's something like thousands of pounds per square inch, but their open is very, very weak. It's not even like 2 fingers even, and that would be after being warming up in the sun for quite a long time, being a cold-blooded animal, you know. They're reptile, and they're dates back even to the time of the dinosaurs. They're the longest living kind of creature in this earth, I'd say. That and the alligator, and there's various different ones of them. But that's what I taught them. My muscles all had to be interlinked, and the nerves, the thought, everything. So mind over matter and all muscles working together. That's why my record was unbeatable, and still is. There's no man in the world that achieved what this old 75-year-old here has achieved, and it can't be broken until the best part of 1,000 years. But it was the butter road, of course, was a thing. Today now, the centre of the butter manufacturing in Munster is the three counties, you know, of Mitchelstown, and they call that the cheese, the Galty cheese, was called now up to date, is called three county butter. But it could be four counties, because you have Waterford, which is only just a little piece down the road as well. So you have Tipperary, Limerick, and Cork, of course, and Waterford. So that today, and today now, just to give the whole thing the tip of from what it is today, the Kerry Gold, but Kerry Gold is a brand name, and the vast majority of Kerry Gold is manufactured in Mitchelstown, and the milk comes in there from just about everywhere in Munster. And the days I'm talking about earlier, that the butter and the butter road, and the reason for the whole thing was obviously the butter was churned in houses at that time. There was no creameries. So what we take for granted now, there's an old broken down creamery here in Rylane, and they're all relics now themselves. They're resigned to history now as well. So there's only one, there's only the one that I just mentioned, the one Mitchelstown. That's where we're gone to today, Mitchelstown, and the butter. But it's very interesting thing. And oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that just after my show with that, I was invited to go to Country Park, which was just up on top of Mushra, near enough there, Country Park. And I was asked to go there in the evening to do, you know, just to be there, and they'd introduce me and all that. So when I got there, the man that was in charge, he was the MC for the evening and entertainment and all that. And he was Sean O'Shea. He was the man on Pucker Villa. He used to sing, and he's the same man that sang a version of a little bit in the Langer show, the Langer song. You know, he got into that as well, and he's a great comedian. And so I went up there to that. That was in the evening after. You know, it wasn't with the same O'Ban show. But it was on behalf of that, like. And when I went in, of course, he had a big smile for me and a bit of a twinkle in his eye. You could see there was pure devilment in this Sean O'Shea. And he was singing songs about Ballylicky, where he came from. And he was telling stories about carmen who walked from Kerry to the Butter Road in Cork, and how a man could outwalk a horse and things like that. You know, and I was surprised to hear that at that time, that a man could, a horse is only good for about 25 miles of the road, because it's up and down hills and all sorts of things. And like we see horses and ploughing, and we see horses racing in Cheltenham and place like that. But a horse, like before the motorised transport and all that, and a horse was the only way. And even here in Rylane, we got Hannagana Hill. There's a hill coming up into the village, and there they had to have a spare horse at the end of that hill, and there'd be a few bob for the man. Probably at that time it might have been threepence or sixpence, or maybe a shilling. Would have been huge money. And then here in Rylane, when I was showed the cart, when I took a photo on, behind that there was a pub. It's a pub now today. It used to be Paddy O'Keefe's when I came here first, ran the pub. But that was an old staging post, and the people that were there at that time, going way back in different centuries, but they'd have a fresh horse there for a man who would have come in, like it would have been his horse, the man would own it, the Kerry man, from the case if he was coming all the way from Kerry. And he could pick up his fresh horse there that would have been fed, watered and not. Again, the man that would have owned the inn, it might have been called at that time. You're way back in the British time, so it could have been called the inn. And he'd have a fresh horse, and that would take him all the way from Ryland, which would be just a little, around 20 miles. And that was just the right journey for a horse. He could stop again on the way back, and he could get that horse that he had left in the morning, and that one would be fed and watered, and that would take him back to his destination. Sometimes some of these people stayed overnights in places, because it wasn't the case of you had to do it every day. That would probably be about once or twice a week they would bring the butter. But thank you very much.